There's a creative, you've got to clarify. You've got to simplify. You've got to unify. And then you've got to amplify. That's what you would do with a client. And that's exactly what I did, working with our team. Being a CEO was the most creative thing I ever did. Business was a creative act.
In today's world, how does a brand break through the noise and become iconic? Join me, Jason Harris, as I speak with the world's leading marketing experts about how they use soul and science to build an iconic brand. Think of it as EQ meeting IQ. So let's lock in and together fast forward our marketing minds on the Soul and Science podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, Soul and Science podcast. I am joined by really a very famous, well-known person in our industry, Rob Schwartz. He's won every award under the sun you could imagine. He served as CCO at TBWA Chiat for a long time, and then he took the rare step in New York of going from CCO to CEO. He's known as the creative CEO. He is currently working as the agency's first in-house executive coach. And he also has some side clients as well. And he's really built a second career as a coach. And that's what I want to get into today. Welcome to the podcast, Rob Schwartz. I'm going to go to the Wayback Machine. This is how I like to start all my podcasts. How did Rob Schwartz, as a young gun, post-school, determine that advertising was his career path? How did that happen?
In the Wayback Machine, you would discover Rob Schwartz as a failed lawyer who walked out on his LSAT on, I think it was question 38. And I was going to write the great American novel. There was a book called Bright Lights, Big City by Jay McInerney, and another one called Less Than Zero. These two books were like seminal in my life. And I'm like, I'm going to write the third. They need a third, book. Anyway, that didn't work out.
What's interesting about that story is your son is now going to law school.
Yeah, well, he's a genius. And so I'm very happy for him.
Okay, good. All right. So then did you start writing the novel, or did you say, I'm going to write a novel and I need a copywriting job to pay the bills?
That's a great question. By the way, one of the things to be a novelist is you actually have to write the novel.
Right.
And I wasn't even doing that. So I had a terrible job in a publishing house. And there was a woman there who kind of saved my life. And she said, I've got a friend who teaches at School of Visual Arts, SVA. His name is Tony Romeo. And maybe you want to take a class there. So I went to night school and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And that's where I discovered advertising.
And how long after that did you get your first job?
Probably a couple months after that. My first job, I was a proofreader copy typist. That's how old I am. They were still typing back then. There wasn't even computers.
Oh, they didn't have Grammarly back then?
No. I was Grammarly.
You're a human Grammarly, right?
In fact, they really liked me because I think I had a typo on my resume. But irrespective, I went to a very good boutique agency in New York, and that got me started. And I just worked on I would type up everybody's ideas. And if there was stuff that people didn't want to work on, like the world's worst assignments, I was only too happy to do them. And that's kind of how I made my bones as a copywriter.
And when did you land at TBWA?
I got to TBWA Chiat, Los Angeles, 1998. I was living out in LA.
Okay.
And then came to New York to do the CEO job. I kind of rose through the ranks in LA to be chief creative officer. And then I became CEO in 2015.
That's amazing. So you've sort of been attached to TBWA for like 20 something years, 25 years. Maybe.
Yeah, well, once it's over 25 years, you just call it 25 plus.
25, you're in 25 plus. So that's a little snapshot of your career. What do you think you're particularly good at that helped you go from proofreader to CCO to CEO? What is your strength that maybe other people don't have?
I'm I'm good at listening, kind of all different kinds of listening. Like good at listening when I talk to people. Good at listening to like things in the culture. Good at listening to things, that I read in the media. Every time like I'm watching and observing, I'm listening. So I think that's what's kind of been the thing that has propelled me.
So you think when other people are figuring out how to get their idea in there or sell their thing, you've got this other ramped up capability of listening to solve the problem.
Yeah, I think it's some of what you say about hearing the problem in the explanation of the issue. I just think that I was kind of listening to like, oh, you don't want to do that project? I'll do it. Like, oh, you're challenged by that thing? I can give you, 15 headlines, in the next 10 minutes.
So maybe another strength is speed, listening and responding quickly.
Yeah. Somebody once told me that I had a real bias towards action. That was their phrase for me.
I like that.
And yeah, I think it's not just listening and then going, pondering.
Right.
It's kind of listening, go, okay, do something with that.
Before I get into your transition from CEO to in-house and out-house executive coaching, out-house doesn't sound as good. Just like I think it's very rare on the brand side for CMOs to get tapped for the CEO job. It's usually the CFO. Same thing on the side of agencies. It's usually maybe the president that moves into the CEO role or a COO moving into a CEO role. How were you able to sort of lobby to say, as an agency, the business should be run by a trained creative professional? How did that happen? Because that's pretty rare in our industry.
Well, that's a very good question and quite a bit to unpack there. I would say in the specific, I would give Troy Ruhanen the credit on identifying me. So Troy is at that time was the global CEO and president of TBWA Worldwide. And he's the one who asked me, hey, what do you want to do next? I was in kind of a bit of a global floater job. Um, and he said, hey, what do you think about being the CEO of New York?
So you didn't really think about it. You were tapped for it.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it. I think when I look back on it and think about the why, one is I think that I was dumb enough to do it. I think this was a very challenging job. This was a bit of a dumpster fire moment. And I was a bit of a Hail Mary. My advantage was that I knew what good TBWA offices looked like.
Right. So you had a global perspective
Mm,
that you could bring to a struggling New York office.
yeah. I think on your transition question, though, I think one of the things that for creative people, for CMO types, one of the things you have to really understand is the money. That you have to really kind of go, okay, how do we make money? And it's not just how you're currently making money, but think a little bit too about, okay, how can we make money in the future? And getting comfortable with the language of money. I mean, these were things that I'd never thought about these things as a creative. And I forced myself to do it. I wound up taking this free MIT Finance 101 class. Thank God for the internet. We have all this access to all these brilliant people. And I took this specific MIT Finance 101 because I figured that one would be really hard.
Did it help a lot?
A ton, yeah. I mean, you start to get. It's not just understanding. Oh, okay. There's the difference between revenue and margin and all that good stuff. The specifics, but the culture of money, the texture and the feel and the things that money people think about.
Right.
That was really important. It goes back to listening. Like, okay, what's interesting? What are money people really into? Beyond the accumulation of funds.
Right. And so maybe listening, a bias towards action, and really understanding the economics of the agency world, those factors are really important if you're interested in, going from the creative C-suite to the, CEO role. That might be something to think about.
And by the way, and have a good, have a CFO that you really can work with.
Yeah, that's critical. Lean into the CFO and become a team,
Totally.
become a partnership. And we know the CEO role is a grind. Like there's only at that level, you can't do that role forever because it's challenging. You're always thinking about, reduction in force. You're thinking about squeezing margin. You're thinking about investing in new platforms or what other services can we sell. That's a hard job at that level to do for a long time. Was there a point where you were like, I don't want to go back to the CCO role. I need a new role. And is that when you were like, oh, I think maybe with all that I've learned, I can add some expertise and help people?
Yeah, I mean, I think truth be told, I was a little bored after about 4 or 5 years into it. The good news is that we had built an incredible team, and that's a big part of it too. It's not all on you. And then this other wonderful dynamic whirled into our lives called COVID. And COVID kind of changed everything for everyone in every way. And one of the things that we needed to do as part of the TBWA collective, beyond just the New York office and beyond just TBWA things, is we had other entities that needed help. And specifically, we had a network called 180 that was part of the TBWA empire, and we had Lucky Generals, two other boutique offerings. So Troy came to me and said, "Hey, listen, we need some help elsewhere. We need, we need to spread you a bit. Can you help oversee all of our New York offices? So have a hand in TBWA, Chiat in New York, and really spend some time with these two other nascent, offices that we're trying to get off the ground."
Were you coaching the CEOs on how to prop up the business at first? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, so it was kind of a sit in with the different leaders, sit in with the different leadership teams, pay attention, and offer up some advice. I've taken on a chair role, so you go from CEO to chair, chairman, chairperson, chairwoman. We call it chair, and that's the good news is you can have a lot of influence. The bad news is that no one is forced to listen to you.
Right. You're more of a glorified advisor, but you're not coming in every day making decisions on businesses, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally, Sal to Tony Soprano. You're a Sil to Tony Soprano. You're a consigliere, and you can be dismissed at any moment. But what I was finding was that I was talking to these leadership teams, talking to these leaders, and I had my experience and I had my instinct, but I didn't really have the academics. I didn't really have what I was really, I felt like I was giving people advice, and this is for their, careers and their companies. I had a responsibility there. And we had brought coaches in at TBWA Chiat Day New York around 2017. And I had seen how I was coached and our leadership team was coached. They transformed our business. I mean, just how we operated. And I thought, wow, this thing is really powerful. So I decided, hey, maybe I'll go and become a coach. And I applied. Brown University had a great coaching program. And that's the one I applied to. It was the one I connected with the most, and went to Brown and learned both one-on-one coaching and got trained as a team coach after.
Is it pretty arduous?
Yeah, I mean it's not as hard as getting, your law degree, but yeah, because there's stuff to learn.
What do you love about the business? What do you still love about the business?
Just sort of like creating stuff that matters and that people go, "Oh yeah, I saw that thing. That's so cool." And now more than ever, I feel like when I wake up in the morning and I rummage through all the screens I rummage through, I feel like I have landed in the Las Vegas airport. You ever go land in the airport with a
Sure.
McCarran? And it's just like a blizzard of stuff. But when there's a good idea, it's like everything falls away and you're like, that thing. And that's what I'm still attracted to. I'm still attracted to good ideas.
You've had a lot of different jobs. What's your favorite job you've ever had?
My favorite, I mean, this one's great. you
Executive
know,
coaching?
I'm grateful every day that, you know, Troy and Denise Strife, who's the CFO of TBWA, that they said, "Yeah, let's do this thing. Yeah, you be the internal coach of this collective because I get to talk to so many talented people and try to help them do stuff." And I was thinking about this, coming into our chat today. I'm really interested in human potential. I want to see like how cool people can be like. And as a creative director, I was always just a sucker for a good idea. That's the one. That's great. Let's do that thing. So I want to hear more great ideas out of people. And that's what coaching is. I get to hear great ideas.
Going back to your time in the CCO role, just because I'm curious, what is the best piece of work that you oversaw or worked on that you are proudest of,
The best piece of work.
or client or campaigns or
I think I can maybe answer this in a maybe it helps a couple of ways. I think single best piece of work I would say was we did a short-lived but very strong campaign for Visa, which was the Go campaign, and we did some wonderful work for the Olympics called Go. I think it was Go Humans, Go World. No, it was Go World. Go Humans was the line we tried to sell. We couldn't sell it. Go World. So I think creatively that was really good, and we were able to tell some amazing Olympic stories, and we did it for I think 3 separate games, 2 summer, one winter game. When Michael Phelps broke the record, this is going back to 2008. We had an ad ready in that next pod. I mean, it wasn't like it was today. Like you actually really had to think that through. So I think creatively, I think that was really satisfying. The second thing I would say is that I am really, I don't know, just amazed and blown away by how long I was, able to work on Nissan, working with Nissan uh, across the globe. I mean, we did I started with Enjoy the Ride, got to work a little bit on the tail end of that, which was amazing. But we wound up doing this campaign called Shift, which lasted for 12 years in 100 and some odd countries. I mean, that was really rewarding. And then I would just say the third thing that I'm like really proud of as a creative endeavor was the rebirth of the New York office. Being a CEO was the most creative thing I ever did.
interesting?
And I found, you know, business was a creative act.
Tell me more about that. How do you think of business as a creative act?
I mean, it's everything that I had learned as going back to being a copywriter. In some ways, being a copywriter was the best training as a CEO. I mean, you had to really, kind of understand the business problem, understand all the problems. And it was really about kind of figuring out, and I used our disruption methodology. I used TBWA disruption methodology for the business.
You use for clients to disrupt your own business.
Yeah, just use like what we would do if we're in a new business pitch or we're working with a client. We're going to use the disruption methodology because we needed a disruption. This was a very broken company at the time. So that really helped. And I think the other things as a creative, you've got to clarify, you've got to simplify, you've got to unify, and then you've got to amplify. That's what you would do with a client. And that's exactly what I did, working with our team in our New York office. Clarify who we were, simplify, how we operated and what we were offering, unified everybody, and then amplified it, to the market.
Soul and Science is a Mechanism podcast produced by Maggie Bowles, Ryan Tillotson, and Lily Jablonski. The show is edited by Daniel Ferreira with theme music by Kyle Merritt. And I'm your host, Jason Harris.